Mr. Zolan. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, January 23rd, 2020. Welcome to the new year. This is our first meeting of the new decade for RSCVA to start us off and into good places for us to go for many years to come. So, with that being said, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and somebody take us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, absolutely. Andy Chapman, will you take us, sir? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. I got to tell you, that's probably one of the hardest deals as a chair, to sit up here and try to pick somebody every morning to pick that Pledge of Allegiance is one of the, it's daunting, right? So, all right, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Caroselli? Here. Ms. Keel? Here. Mr. Kornstein? Here. Mr. Lawson? Here. Mayor Sheeby? Here. Ann Silver? Mr. Sturbins? Here. Mr. Wood? Here. Mr. Lucy?
Here, thank you. All right, we are on to public comment. I do not have anybody signed in for public comment. Is there anybody wishing to speak under public comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. We are on to approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any changes that anybody would like to make at this time or take out of order subsequent to looking for a motion then? I have a motion from Mr. Sturbins. Second from Madam Mayor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We're on to approval of minutes of the December 5th, 2019 Board of Directors regular meeting. Are there any, the meeting minutes are in your packet, and if there are any adjustments or changes that anybody would like to make, we can amend those now. If not, looking for a motion to accept the minutes as posted. I have a motion from the mayor. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Wood. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. DeLone, we are on to staff, our RSCVA staff update.
Thank you, sir. This month, we say thank you to Board Member Bill Wood, General Manager of the Crystal Bay Club, who's been with us here since January of 2016. This marks today his 4 years of service on this board, and to the RSCVA, the hospitality industry, and Reno Tahoe. And we really appreciate, sir, your tireless service, and I think we all owe you an ovation. Thank you, sir. Many thanks for your service, and we will miss you.
Well, thank you, and I'd just like to say real quickly, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the board. I look back on 4 years ago at a retreat at the Hyatt. We had a lot of great ideas, a lot of plans, and a lot of them have come true. A lot of them have happened to varying degrees of success, but I think it's very encouraging where the board's gone, where the RSCVA has gone, and also I look forward to the future. One thing I would like to say, a lot of the decisions we make here are very important decisions, but they're based on all the hard work that the staff does. And I think the staff actually is the one that needs the ovation.
Oh, that's very nice of you, sir. Thank you. As we've read in the newspapers, after many decades of success and fame, Harrah's Reno will cease operating as a casino resort in downtown. We all say goodbye to an iconic landmark long associated with Reno Tahoe in northern Nevada. Staff has made a preliminary analysis of the room tax and fee collections at Harrah's Reno as based upon our budget, and we believe that there is enough available inventory in downtown to absorb the room nights represented annually by Harrah's Reno into the other casino resorts in the neighborhood. Therefore, we anticipate a no more than nominal impact to the RSCVA budget. Further, as we begin to look at budget preparations for the next fiscal year of 2020 and 21, we will incorporate any changes the market reflects into that budget as we move forward. It has also been reported that the Circus Tower, used recently by UNR for student housing as emergency housing, will revert back to hotel operations sometime in early summer. United States Senator Cortez Masto has helped the Nevada travel industry this past month. Under threat was Brand USA, the destination marketing organization for the United States, which was established by the Travel Promotion Act in 2009 as the nation's first public-private partnership to promote the United States as a premier destination worldwide. Continued funding for Brand USA was important to us and was under threat from the current administration looking to divert funds to other federal use, and that change was imminent. Fortunately, Senator from Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto, has been successful in leading a bipartisan coalition of lawmakers in renewing funding for Brand USA, and that funding is secured through 2027. This advocacy was supported by the RSCVA, and it was supported nationwide by virtually every major tourism destination in the country. The Safari Club International show arrives on Wednesday, February 5. Last year, the group utilized 17,000 room nights in the destination, with visitors coming from 103 different countries. And early reports from SCI staff indicate attendee registration is forecast to be reasonably similar to last year. Wild Sheep Foundation had a very successful convention here last week at the convention center and a couple of the hotels, and Wild here started the process to confirm additional annual conventions in the future. Further news will be presented by other departments throughout the agenda. To you, sir. Mr. Lucy.
Thank you, sir. All right. Ms. Cunningham.
Morning, everyone. To begin with, I would just like to acknowledge the great event that we had last week, I believe it was, at the National Bowling Stadium, and thank many of you for attending. I would like to do a shout out to ASM, where's Michael, and Saver. They did an outstanding job, not only for the VIP reception, but also for the public bowling. And the comments I think that we've all received were so positive, not only on the appearance of the stadium, but the event that these guys, that their team successfully pulled off. Along with that event, the executive director of USBC and deputy executive director came in for a meeting, and they've assured us that they're very interested in talking about future contracting and future tournaments with us after the tournament. So we'll continue those discussions and really go at it strong come July when the tournament ends. Quickly, I'd like to turn your attention to the scorecard and the monthly snapshot in your binders. The marketing part that we're responsible for, I just wanted to point out there's so much that goes into these numbers. And for an example, one I just want to highlight, at the very bottom of the top column, the LA Basin web sessions, you'll see there was a tremendous jump in that year-over-year number. Last year, in 2018, prior year, we had a digital campaign running. This year, we had a full campaign, including outdoor, radio, and digital. So a lot of it, and there's a lot of stats that we can look at that drill down to organic search and what Google has sent to us, and there's a lot more detail, but just want to give you an example. We're happy that the advertising has impacted that, but there are many things that go into it. I would like to turn over the rest of my time to someone who's gotten cut off for 3 sessions. We wanted Christina Ernie, who's our senior digital manager, to come up and do kind of a recap on some of the cool things that this marketing department and the organization has done this past year. So
Well,
without further ado.
And before Miss Ernie takes the podium, I want to point out, Miss Ernie has, I've seen a number of times been an invitee to be a panelist that talks about social media and the importance of influencers across the nation as a representative of Reno Tahoe and all the work she's done for our organization. So she's not only doing a great job here, but has brought national acclaim to her work through the industry for what she's doing. So with that, Ms. Ernie, we apologize, but we're all ears now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words, too. Let me pull this up real quick. As I mentioned, Christina Ernie, and I am the Senior Manager of Digital Marketing and Engagement. And so I'm going to give you guys a quick update on some of the influencers programs we did last summer. Since I got bumped a little bit, it's a little delayed, but this is for what we did last summer, and some of the local and national partnerships we have done as well. So to kick it off, we did, pun intended, just kidding, it wasn't, but we partnered with the 1868 soccer team this last summer. And, we partner with a lot of our local community organizations. And we really wanted this year to elevate our sponsorship with this team. And so our marketing team met with their marketing and kind of brainstormed what could we do more than just your typical sponsorship. And we came up with the idea of following 4 of the players around on their off days. A lot of them are not from this area. And so we wanted to know what are their favorite things to do when they have an off day. And then we also exposed them to some new things that they had not yet experienced. So we have 4 players, and we followed them on 4 of their off days during the summer. We took them to events, and we shot. So we did a photo and video shoot with them. And so we captured events, lifestyle, outdoor activities, just a lot of fun things around the Reno Tahoe area. And we created a 4-video series and promoted that throughout the summer. And so I'm going to share with you one of the videos that we did. We did a little intro, and then that moved into what they did and some of their organic commentary that on their experience firsthand.
My name is Duke Lacroix. I'm a left back.
My name's Brent Richards. I play fullback.
Hi, my name is Seth Kasipli. I play midfield.
I'm Zach Carroll, center back, and I play for the
Reno 1868
FC. We all went down to the Reno River, walked down the Truckee River, and went down there to cool off on a hot day and got some floaties, floated down the river, and it was a lot of fun.
Just able to grab some floaties, put on some flip-flops, and jump right in the river, right in the heart of things. You're looking at downtown from the water.
Just trying to stay together on the river and enjoying that together was a lot of fun with my teammates.
After that, we popped out of the river, deflated the floaties, and walked to the eddy.
It's a cool outdoor area, nice little bar and seating area. They put in misters. They have bocce there. They have cornhole, all the classic games, and they have some really good food trucks too if you're hungry as well.
It's a lot of fun. We'll go there on our off days pretty frequently, and just to hang out and relax and have a cold beer and play some games with the guys.
Grabbed some drinks and then headed over to Sizzle Pie and got some food.
They have a bunch of different pizza options by the slice every day, new ones every day, and also have good drink selection there and a bunch of vegan options too if that's what you're into.
But it's cool to relax with the teammates in the off day, doing something relaxing downtown Reno, trying something different. So it's a good vibe. It's a good way to de-stress and to relax.
So it was a great day.
On our platforms, but then 1868 shared them on their platforms as well as the players with their audiences. We got hundreds of awesome imagery. That was a main focus of this campaign was to get these just like group activity, these guys enjoying all that Reno Tahoe has to offer. Again, I mentioned that they shared it on their social channels. These are rising soccer professionals, and so they are growing their followings and becoming influencers, but they're not there yet. Some of them have decent followings, but they're still growing, and so we were also able to coach them a little bit on best practices and how they can work with brands, and that was really an added value back to their team. Everyone had a great time. And of course, we made a landing page on our website for it, highlighting specifics, where they went, how to get there, included maps and all of that. And the videos got over 100,000 views. Next, moving on to a couple of the influencers. I'm going to run through these kind of quickly. Each of them have a home slide, and I just wanted to call out so you guys can just read through it as I'm going through. The total audience is their number of followers. I've included a couple of the brands that they also do ongoing partnerships with that we are in company with. I've included the post engagements. Those are the likes and comments that they get on their posts while they're here. And one of the key things that we really focus on is their engagement score. And this is something that we look at how engaged their audience is with their followers. So she had 16%. The average influencer engagement rate is around 2%. And the way that we get really high engagement scores is before we hire influencers to come to our area, we look at their engagement rate and see how engaged their audience is with just within their platform, and that also helps filter through if they have a fake following. Then once they get here, we compare how does the Reno Tahoe content compare to their other brands' content? How do we perform against the content they did for GoPro? Do we have a higher engagement rate? Do we have a lower engagement rate? And then, and we look at some of the brands and content that perform really well and make sure that we're curating content to get that really good rate. No, you're good. And then after they're here, we look at how their engagement rate of their Reno Tahoe content performs against other influencers' rate of their Reno Tahoe content. So we have an ongoing spreadsheet of how their content performs against each other as well, and what types of content perform at different ways. So when we are doing upcoming promotions and rehiring them, we are making sure we're picking the right people and getting those right audiences, just like you would almost any other media buy. So Ariel, one of her focuses was she has an autoimmune condition, and so she has to eat really clean and really healthy, and she's really adventurous. So she highlighted some of the best places to fuel for your adventure, really clean eating. Got a lot of awesome photography. She brought her dog. Next up, Backpacking Kitty. He's a cat who goes on adventures. He hikes, he bikes, he whitewater rafts. He had over 100,000 post engagements, engagement score of 16%. Again, really eye-catching photography. He kayaks. It's not every day you see a cat that does this, and so this content it gets a lot of engagement. One of the unanticipated surprises we got with this is, so of course we focus on all of your traditional digital platforms, but TikTok, if you guys haven't heard of it, it's a rising platform, and it has international reach. And Jennifer had touched on this a couple months ago when they were here, but he, in August, when Jennifer had reported on it, he was here that week and it had 480,000 views on his videos. And now they have over 10 million views on his videos on TikTok from when he was here. So just kind of to reiterate the reach of these emerging platforms, and then also a cat doing these adventurous things. And our brand is, of course, everywhere in it, including on the Backpacking Kitty's backpack that we gave him. Christian Schaefer, really awesome photographer with really colorful images. She has partnered, I'll go back, with like Eddie Bauer, Samsung, Cliff Bar. She came with a photographer, Nathaniel Weiss, works with JetBlue. You'll see Christian in Eddie Bauer stores around the nation. She's one of their key people that they use. And they got some really awesome shots for us this year. Moving on to Ty Newcomb. He is a photographer, not as much as a personality, and he's known for taking really unique imagery. And one of the things that I really tasked him with was capturing urban Reno, and we got over 150 images of urban Reno, and I want him to like think about, the transportation and all that. And so he just has a unique eye. He went and climbed to the top of this Nugget Tower for this shot, and he just saw the planes coming in. And he was like, that's where I could get a really good shot, and went up there and got this with the airplane. That was cool. Here's just a couple, just different images from maybe your typical influencer imagery, but we try to diversify what type of images we get. He shot the arch in a lightning storm. Yeah. I'm going to moving on. We have brought influencers to our sales department. We've infiltrated Mike and his team. Mike and his team had a great idea during the IMEX show that I'm sure you guys all got an update on already. So Mike and his team brought in Garrett Yergoyan, who is an influencer, 740,000 followers. He has worked with a number of really popular brands, and he has also been on television. He is most known for winning The Bachelorette, but he is a Reno. He went to college here in Reno, and we've partnered with him a couple of times on other projects in the past. He's a huge advocate for us. We worked with him during Barracuda Championship, and he worked with a podcast. We worked with him for media buys, just a couple of the stories that he has done in the past. But, so the theory was, especially with his Bachelorette background, is how many followers does he who is his audience? And his audience is mainly female, in their 30s and 40s. And so Mike and his team had this theory of, well, that's kind of aligns with our meeting planner audience. So I wonder how many of them know who he is, brought him to the booth, wanted them to come take pictures with him and post about on their social media. And it turns out he was exactly right. His followers knew what IMEX was when they posted about it. And if you don't know what IMEX is, I mean, you either know it or you don't. These aren't people like, oh, I wish I was at IMEX. No, they know what IMEX is. And so here's just some of the comments that he got on his social that I really liked were, Reno Tahoe got you to represent at IMEX, genius, wish I was there. I talked to some of the Reno Tahoe folks a few years ago and have gone two trips since. They were right. Beautiful, easy to get to, nature-filled. Are you at IMEX with the Tahoe CVB? I'd be impressed by their marketing if so. Did not plant these comments. So nice to meet you at IMEX. Tagging a friend, too bad you're not at IMEX. Hello from the Visit Indy team. I mean, other destinations commenting on our content. I'm trying to get off of that. And he was super engaging as well. Responding back, he took photos with them. They shared them all across their social channels. These meeting planners to other, and of course, they're probably followed by other meeting planners. And it also got the attention of the IMEX team themselves. They had someone at their conference with 750,000 followers, which probably rarely happens. And they're like, who is promoting IMEX right now? And so they had their team come to our booth, talk with Garrett. We were the only destination that they highlighted on their social the entire week. And it was all, we did not pay for it. I mean, it was just having Garrett in our booth. So I'll just play a little quick snippet
I'm walking around the show floor and I ran into Garrett. Hey, Garrett, how you doing? Good, Garrett. How about you? I'm fine. Well, we picked up on your Instagram stories with your 750,000 followers. Oh, yeah. So as a social media team, we're checking out what you're doing here. What brings you to IMEX?
What brings me to IMEX is promoting Reno Tahoe. You know, trying to get people to come out there and see its beauty and what it has to offer. Yeah. So, yeah, I've lived in Reno the past 10 years. Love it out there and enjoy it, everything that Reno and Tahoe has to offer. So now I do whatever I can to help out.
Great, great. Well, thanks for being with us. And if people walk by,
but it's just more of that type of content. He's come back with his fiance, who was on The Bachelorette, 1.3 million followers. She got 150,000 post engagements. And they also brought their dog as well to highlight the dog-friendly activities around town. Jess and Quinn, many of you have heard me talk about them before in the past. They're two of the biggest travel influencers there are, and they love our destination. They've come here a handful of times this past year. We are so fortunate for that. Quinn has over 1.1 million followers, works with huge brands. Jess also has a really impressive resume, and I just wanted to highlight with them this time, instead of, they took over 150 amazing photos that we got to use for our advertising and marketing. But I just wanted to share some of the impact that they also have in terms of numbers to our site. And so their main thing is social media. It is the Instagram and their Facebook pages, but that we also a lot of times have influencers do a blog on us and to increase our search engine optimization and link backs to our website. And so Jess has done a couple blogs on our destination, and just showing at the graph at the bottom, that's the continued traffic that we get from her blog to our website. And her blog is one of our top 30 referral websites, so top 30 websites sending traffic to our site. And she beats out TripAdvisor. So not that we should go away from TripAdvisor, but she is a TripAdvisor as well, where people are going to make travel decisions, and then they are linking from her website. These are people linking directly from her site to our site. So I just wanted to throw that out there, the impact of that. As I said, we also use their images in a lot of our advertising. And so when we're doing a social ad, we'll tag them in it. We'll say their names. Here's Justin and Quinn's itinerary in Reno, Tahoe, and people know who these people are. So they're clicking on it, sending all that traffic to our site. They want to know what they did in our area. And pretty much that past year, we got 90,000 views of people who wanted to see that content. And there's people you hear about, the micro influencers, nano influencers, and the caliber of the major influencers that we bring to our destination just provide the exposure in the millions, and they have a better chance of creating content to go viral. And this was a message that I'd gotten last fall just from one of the businesses that we partnered with, and I just wanted to share it, just the impact that it also has on our community and community businesses. It says, we are reaching the year mark since the incredible opportunity you have given us to collaborate with Jess and Quinn and the creation of the pictures and videos that have gone viral. I still can't believe it, and I cannot begin to express my gratitude to you for helping make that happen. It has really catapulted my business into a category of success I thought I was years from getting to. Thank you so much again. And so just the power of these large followings and what they're able to do just to this one business, and make them get into a level of success. Next up, Paradise. Paradise Media, this is a group of content creators, adventurists. They have their platform 1.3 million followers. And what we did with them is they have a really talented videographer. He is based out of LA, and he has shot, he was just shooting an ad for Lamborghini last week I saw that he was doing. And so it was really awesome that we were able to get him into our area and create this video. And if you look, his transitions are just really impressive. And they're adventurous, they're risk takers, but they fit our brand so well, the people who are part of this collective. So here's this video.
Please prepare for takeoff. They were here over 4th of July, that's why there were fireworks. Yeah, so, and of course we get rights to all of the video. They did over a dozen cut downs for us that we have full rights to use. And the team is coming back for another winter promotion here coming up shortly.
So we're excited about that. Social edits, that's just Instagram stories that they did as well. So here's just the totals of the influencers we did over the summer, bringing your attention just to the bottom line. The following of these people was over 7.5 million. And then, of course, we work with people who we trust that they over-deliver and give them content that performs so well that they want to over-deliver. Our contracted posts were 31, and we got 45. And then in terms of imagery, we contracted 78 images and got 326 images. Average engagement, 14%, and that's 842,000 engagements. Lastly, a quick media buy that we did with the Outbound Collective. It's a national media buy. These guys do crowdsource itineraries and put them on their website, just itineraries for a number of destinations. And I just want to share the video that we did with them as well. Quick numbers, we did email blast with them, social posts. That text layover really performs well on social. All of the influencers posted on their channels as well as Outbound. Just a couple of stories, they're not coming through very well. Got hundreds of images, again, that we can use. We got rights to use, and that is it. Thank you.
Miss Ernie, I got to tell you, the mayor and I were just chatting, and for us, or at least for the two of us, for me, I've been here for 5 years, and to see the transition from where we have come to where we are today, and to see the videos and the type of individuals that come through and the work that your team and everybody, all the staff has done is tremendously. And the mayor has said when she travels to different markets and she sees our marketing there, and when I go on sales missions and see how our booth stands out, now we're not just one of the people in the fold, we are the booth to come to. That makes me so happy that this is a completely different agency than we were 5 years ago when we all sat there and said, this is ridiculous, this board is horrible, and this organization is going down the tubes. And I got to tell you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I think this has been tremendous to see. And I think this is just proof of all the work and time and energy that this board, the staff, and everybody has put into. So congratulations, Ms. Ernie. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much. And yes, it is a collective group effort, everyone on the marketing staff and team and you guys, and I really appreciate your support as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Ms. Cunningham, do you have anything else you'd like to add or nothing? All right, Mr. Larragueta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always fun following Christina, but I'll do my best.
Well, no, this is great for you. I mean, come on, we're all hyped up, we're all excited. Now you're going to tell us how great the sales
They put
are.
it out there for us, and then we just bring the room nights, right?
That's right.
We're bringing our video next month. All right. So if I could have you please refer back to the scorecard. Being halfway through the fiscal year, I have a few more numbers to share with the board today. For the month of November, our gross produced room nights, group room nights, was 13,593, a little short of the goal of 19,127. Of those 13,593, the majority was in the convention segment at 13,382. We did make up the deficit in the month of December. We had a great December. producing 22,898 on a goal of 17,937, which closed us for Q2 at 101% to goal, producing 57,270 against 56,749. Year to date, through the first 6 months of the fiscal year, I'm happy to report that gross produced room nights is at 133,114 against a goal of 118,573, or 112% to goal. As you all know, the team is also tasked with a new business goal. Through the first 6 months of the fiscal year, we have produced 92,448 room nights of new business being defined as never having met in the destination or had not been back to the destination in a minimum of 4 years. Our goal was 53,798, so we're at 172% to goal in new business. So kudos to the team on that. Very exciting. This new business is represented by several marketing segments, included but not limited to cultural, fine arts, environmental, diversity, ethnic, multicultural, trade, commercial, educational, fraternal, and government. For the groups that are 1,500 total room nights or more that make up that new business, 8,000 were contracted for the year 2020, 4,500 in 2021, 5,500 in 22, 15,750 in 23, and another 3,300 in 25. So we're seeing a pattern that we are impacting every year and building a base of business as we move forward into the future. A final number I'd like to report is in regards to site inspections. As I've explained in prior board meetings, we created a site experience team, which consists of Morgan Edwards and Ashley Petula, and they basically take the clients on site inspections of the city and the destination and our properties, somewhat of a handoff from our remote sales directors that are located throughout the country. Year to date, we've conducted 39 site inspections versus 34 of the prior year, and out of those 39, we've converted 26, or a 66% conversion rate. Their goal is 50%, so obviously they're doing quite well, which is, again, kudos to Morgan and Ashley, who have done an excellent job. The convention sales team has participated in several activities in the past 2 months. A few of those highlights, those activities include Season Spectacular in California and Sacramento, CVN Elite Meeting Alliance, EMA in Washington, D.C., IAEE Expo, which is the International Association of Exhibitions and Events, which was held in Las Vegas, held a biannual RSCVA sales retreat this past December. We hosted a local holiday event in downtown Denver with over 30 clients, attended the American Express Interaction in Denver as well, MPI Signature Luncheon in Chicago, Holiday Showcase, which I joined as well in Chicago, which again was very successful. We did presentations in Anaheim, sales calls in Houston, service clubs in Dallas, et cetera, et cetera. Just a note in terms of how the success of marketing is really paralleling into our success on convention sales is that we do events in a lot of these major cities where we have a show. So IMEX is a perfect example, which was in October, where we came up with a concept, and kudos to Amy Green and her team and the events team, who always, one, secures a venue that has to stand out versus our competition. Our booth, to your point, Mr. Chairman, looks exceptional, and then we find a talent in some unique way, such as Garrett, to draw people into our booth. The challenge is how do we find something better next year? But I'm happy to say that we have an idea already in the fold for IMEX, which is going to separate us from other cities in competition, which, if we pull this off, will be the talk of the show floor next October in Las Vegas. Now, if you could please turn to the definite meeting report in your binders. I'm going to go over the upcoming groups for the months of February. It should be in the binder, yes. If it's not, my explanation of the group should suffice as well. So Worldwide Distributors arrives this week with 1,800 attendees and 2,700 and that's not in there? Okay, apologize. We'll make sure it's in for February. Worldwide Distributors arrives this week with 1,800 attendees and 2,791 contracted room nights and utilizes RSCC for their trade show. Worldwide partners with over 3,000 vendors in a variety of categories to connect with independent retailers. For over 60 years, Worldwide has helped hundreds of retailers across America achieve margins and profits they did not think possible. The spring show and winter show features members buying needs for all categories with an emphasis on fall, winter apparel, footwear, shooting sports, and camping. This program comes twice a year, has been coming back to Reno for years. We were in risk of losing this show to the Northwest. And again, kudos to the team, and Charles Mullins and the Sacramento office was able to secure this business and retain them, and we're in the process of signing them for future years right now. As Phil mentioned earlier today, Safari Club International arrives January 28th, departing February 11th, with 17,277 contracted rooms and over 20,000 attendees. This Hunter's Heaven has everything the mind can dream of and occupies more than 600,000 square feet of exhibit space and meeting space at the RSCC. 6 continents are under one roof where SCI members come to book hunts, rendezvous with old friends, and shop for the latest guns and hunting equipment. Adrenaline Dance arrives in February, February 19th to be specific, and departs on the 24th with over 510 attendees and 270 contracted room nights. This group is new to the destination and is currently touring in 22 cities. This organization oversees the Revive Dance Competition and Convention. The main competition will be held at the Reno Ballroom in February, with all grade age groups competing. This competition will also be returning in March of 2021. And last but certainly not least, the Rocky Mountain National Events arrival is February 20th, departing February 22nd, with over 700 attendees and a contracted room block 175. Rumble in Reno is part of Rocky Mountain National Events, which titles itself as the biggest dance series in the world. This competition is housed at the Livestock Event Center and the Reno Ballroom and caters to all ages. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my update. Any questions I may take, or I will pass the mic to Mr.
Do we have any questions
Jimenez.
from Mr. Larragetta this morning in regards to sales? All right. Thank you, Mr. Larragetta.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the tourism sector, November's Tourism Channel monthly reported room nights were 51,962 versus 53,222 last November. Year to date, we are at 330,116 room nights versus 337,795 from last year. I just want to remind and comment that this third-party channel, it continues to support what the properties are doing with wholesale rate management, but more importantly, it supports their continued higher pricing strategies. So it's working hand in hand. As far as activity for the team over the last 60 days and the next 30 days, we worked with Expedia. I'll be reporting on some numbers on that momentarily through October through December, and Mailpound. In the next 30 days, we're going to continue to work with Expedia, Mailpound. We're adding Priceline.com into the mix, and Pleasant Holidays. As far as trade shows and events, we attended the American Bus Association show in Omaha earlier this month. We have 2 teammates on a plane right now flying to New York to attend the New York Times travel show, and from there they'll go on to Orlando to present at Hotel Beds. Hotel Beds is the world's largest receptive tour operator, and what's important about that is that they only allow 1 presentation per month, and we were able to secure one of those spots this year. And then we also attended the National Tour Association Conference, which, as you know, will be here this November, and will attract about 700 buyers and about 1,200 attendees to our destination. We're planning to attend the Chicago Sales Mission with Travel Nevada, Southern California as well with Travel Nevada, and the North American Journeys Receptive Operator shows. As far as FAMs, due to seasonality, we didn't have any over the last 30 days, but we do have a FAM coming from China and United Airlines, and this is something we've been working on for quite a while. A couple highlights on some programming. Expedia, as part of our Always On programming, we conducted a campaign October through December that generated over 40,000 room nights compared to 20,000 room nights in the same period last year. But I also want to highlight that we're maintaining our need booking window period strategies. Travelers booked over 21 days stand at 38% of travelers, so we're growing that. But what's more important is that travelers booking within 7 days used to be at 70–80% for this destination. Now that remains at 37%. So we've really brought that down. We want to push that traveler booking further out. Out of Intercontinental Airport, out of Houston with United Airlines, bookings, even though we went from 2 flights a week to daily in September, we've seen a passenger increase of 20% via the travel agent sector, September through December, and 17% increase when you look at consumed in future flights, September through March. So our activity in that market is working, and we're also planning the same type of activity in Atlanta to support the nonstop service coming later this early summer. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Are there any questions for Mr. Jimenez in regards to tourism? All right. Ms. Isaac, do you have anything for us this morning?
Thank you, and good morning. Thank you, Christina, again for the very informative presentation about our influencer program. I want to point out to the board that The influencer program, we now actually consider a part of our media buy, and it's not just a standalone line item that, is kind of like under sponsorships. It's part of that integrated approach that we have to media. So we really feel it's a very important part of that whole program. So we'll see more of that getting in the next budget year. Speaking of media, in December, we started a process of reviewing options for our media buying agency and services by issuing a request for qualifications. The bids are due next Monday, January 27th, and a committee of qualified community and DMO members will review the submitted bids, and staff will be prepared for a recommendation at the February board meeting. On another note, we wanted to let the board know that we've made a slight change in our media markets. As part of the response to a softening economy, we are placing some advertising and marketing efforts in the Sacramento market. We haven't been in that market for quite some time, but we want to stimulate some new visitors by reaching out to our current target audience, which is the 25 to 49-year-old ambitious visitor. This would be different than what the hotel casinos are probably marketing to currently. That first flight will start at the end of March, and we'll do another flight in June. So that's all I have to report.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Isaac. All right, Mr. Chisel, it's your fun time now. We get to talk about the interim financials.
Well, they're just exciting. I know everyone's eagerly awaiting them. The interim financials are in your packet. Also, though, I'd like to point out in your packet is a memo regarding ASM's global performance measurement. A question came up at the last board meeting about how we measure ASM's performance, and so it kind of details some of those items in there. I won't go through it, but basically we look at their financials on a monthly basis. We look at we do inspections, we do customer satisfaction surveys, and there is also a scorecard that they are completed each year in regards to their performance. So that memo is in your packet if you want some more detail. That's all I have.
All right. Are there any questions for Mr. Chisel in regards to the interim financials at this time? All right. Seeing none. All right. I believe that concludes our executive report from staff. Okay. So we are moving on now, obviously, to this is item E2. This is the RSCVA board appointment for the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitors Bureau Board of Directors seat pursuant to NRS 244A-601. Once again, we are very sorry we are going to be losing Mr. Wood. And we thank you for your tenure here at the board. You have been a valuable member of this board for many years. So with that, Mr. Kennedy, will you please take us into this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The seat being vacated by Mr. Wood is filled by the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitors Bureau. They've nominated two candidates, one Andy Chapman, President CEO, Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitors Bureau. The second candidate, Michael Murphy, GM, Hyatt Lake Tahoe Resort. This appointment is open to discussion by the entire board, but is voted upon by the elected officials only. Mr. Wood's term runs through the end of this month, and then the incoming member's term would begin immediately thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. So what I'll do is I'll open this up for discussion by the board as a whole. Is there discussion by any of the board members in regards to either the seats or that replacement will be for Mr. Wood? Seeing no discussion, what I would say is that I have served and spent time with Mr. Chapman from my capacity at the Washoe County Commission with his involvement with the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitor Bureau. He has done a tremendous job in preserving a number of the events that go on in the Incline Village area and maintaining a very close connection with the community up there as it pertains to special events and marketing that portion of the region. So it would be my suggestion, and I would put this in a form of a motion, that we appoint Andy Chapman to the open seat for the Incline Visitors Bureau.
Gladly second.
I have a second from Madam Mayor. This is a vote by just the elected, so all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Chapman, congratulations. Welcome. Mr. Wood.
Yay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And actually, Mr. Chapman, I want you to know it was my son who told me that it was you he really wanted, so I'm just the face.
He's taking your job.
He
I'm
is
sure
taking
of it.
my job.
Mr.
The-
Chair.
The mayor always says, you know, future mayors and future, this is
Future chairman.
future chairmans. So with that, thank you very much. So we are on to now our, yes,
Can
Madam
I
Mayor.
just say, Mr. Woods, you have done a tremendous job. I have thoroughly enjoyed serving with you. We had lunch back in the day, and I was so impressed, not to mention if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. He's got an extensive music knowledge and is a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. So, but I just want to say thank you so very much. You've done a tremendous job. So don't stay away too long.
Oh, we'll hunt him down. Don't you worry about that. We know where he is. He's always having fun up on the lake anyways.
Maybe invite him
Yeah.
out there a couple times.
All you have to do is look for that Honda Cross Tour. You can find him some places. Oh, you sold it? Oh, man. Now I got to find you some other way. All right. Excuse me. All right. So we are on to item E3. This is the appointment and member of the Sparks Tourism Facility and Revitalization Steering Committee on the Nevada Resort Association. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The RSCVA currently appoints 2 seats to the Sparks Tourism Facility and Revitalization Steering Committee. One of those seats is held by Ms. Cunningham. The other seat is vacant. To qualify for the vacant seat, the member must be an RSCVA board member representing a property that is a member of the Nevada Resort Association that is located outside the city of Sparks. So with those caveats, our eligible board members are Ms. Keel, Mr. Caraselli, and Mr. Kornstein. This matter is open for discussion and vote by the entire board.
Thank
And
you,
this
Mr.
appointment would be effective immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. All right, Mr. Kornstein. Oh, look at that. Yeah, see, that's always nice. I see, that's good.
You get it.
Yeah. All right, so we have a nomination for Ms. Keel. Are there any other nominations? We haven't gotten that far yet, Nat, but okay. All right. So I got a nomination. Do I have a motion for Ms. Keel? Motion for Mr. Kornstein. And now I have a second for Mr. Caraselli. All right. Now, with no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Ms. Keel, you can oppose. All right. Congratulations, Ms. Keel. You'll be serving for us on the Sparks Tourism Facility and Revitalization Steering Committee. Yeah, you get to spend some, yeah, there you go. All right, so we are on to, we've made them patiently wait for so long. We have the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority and the CEO and President Marilee Mora here with us this morning to give us a presentation on the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority and the state of the airport.
Well, good morning, Chairman Lucy, Mayor Sheevy, members of the board. I also want to acknowledge our trustee for the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, Nat Caraselli. So I'll be sharing this presentation this morning with our awesome air service team, Hassan Azam and Trish Tucker. But just a few things. I also want to add my congratulations to Andy Chapman. He's carrying a heavy load now because he was just recently elected also as the chair of the Regional Air Service Corporation. So he's doing a great job there. And I also want to acknowledge Jennifer Cunningham, who's the vice chair of the Regional Air Service Corporation. So we have a great, and we'll talk a little bit about the Regional Air Service Corporation, but we wouldn't be where we are in air service without that group behind us. I've got to say, we're sitting there looking at Christina's visuals and going, wow. We echo all of what you've said on those visuals. And actually, you know that campaign that you said, bring your meetings to Reno a number of years ago? We've actually got 3 in the next 6 months. And we can use some of those visuals really when we've got the groups here. So we'll be talking with you because we've got a group of 1,500 in the planning and engineering realm of the airport world coming in February. So immediately we're going to need that. And then Trish Tucker will be talking about our Jumpstart conference that's coming in June, and that's where we have the opportunity, really, we're bringing a lot of airline folks here to the region, so we're really excited about that. Just a couple things. I want to make a note that when you're talking about really Safari Club, we're really pleased, and we can get a little bit more into the numbers, but when we look at what the number for the departure day on February 9th is this year, we're looking at 8,200 seats, and that's 300 more than what we saw last year. We had 7,900 last year, so our growth, I think, is really, really positive for all of those large groups that RSCVA is bringing here. Again, I always talk about the partnership that we have with RSCVA. I think it's never been stronger at all levels of the organization, and I think our air service team certainly interacts with RSCVA just about on a daily basis. So we're really proud of this air service map. We just had Volaris in December that celebrated 5 years of service at Reno Tahoe International. That was an incredible breakthrough, and we're really happy to have had now 5 years of having service to Guadalajara. That was important to our large Hispanic population. I think it was very important to the airport to make that breakthrough with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, to get that our facility up and running again, and we continue to look at improvements. And when we build a new concourse at the airport, a couple years down the road, there will be a new Federal Inspection Service facility as part of that. We'll talk a little bit more about Atlanta with Delta Airlines in June, but that is a huge win for this community. It's one we've wanted for a long time. And I can't get up here and not talk about JetBlue. They will celebrate 5 years of service in May. And all of you in this room helped us get that flight to JFK. We had worked 15 years to get that flight, and also with having service to Long Beach. And we're gonna ask for your help, and our team will be talking about that a little bit more, but you know, we can never take JetBlue for granted. We can never take that flight to JFK for granted. Just last week, we just had an announcement by JetBlue that they're pulling out of Oakland. That's huge. That's huge. They're pulling down their service to Sacramento. So we need you to stand by us and help us with all of our flights that we've worked so hard together in this community to gain. But we can never, ever think that we don't have to keep marketing those flights and working with those airlines, because again, the air service is a dynamic thing. It changes every day, and we need the help of the RSCVA and RAS to make sure that we continue to have good air service for the community. So again, we're very proud. We're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the various destinations and the various airlines. We're putting out a news release this morning, but I think you're the first to know that calendar year 2019 was a great year for us. We served almost 5 million passengers, but over 4.5 million. We're almost up 6% in the numbers. And this is our 5th consecutive year of passenger growth. And this is our highest annual passengers since 2007. Huge turnaround. And again, thank you to all of you. Thank you to RSCVA. Thanks to this board, because that turnaround could not have happened without your help. So, you know, when we look at 2014 versus year 2007, we had passenger traffic that had declined a third. We had lost a third of our passenger traffic. So we have just been in a mode of growing back our numbers. And again, thank you very much for all of the help that you have. You've been at our side to bring those numbers back up. So we're really, really proud of these numbers, and happy to share those numbers with you when we're putting out our news release about our 2019 results just this morning, but we wanted to share that with you first. I'm going to turn this over to Hassan because I know we did a presentation at the Regional Air Service Corporation. Mr. Lone had asked us to share more in-depth information on specific airlines serving Reno Tahoe International, so that's why we're here this morning.
Thank you, Mary Lee. Good morning, everybody. For the record, Hassan Azam with Reno Tahoe International Airport Air Service Development Team. So, folks, congratulations to everybody. Again, 2019, one of the best years over the last 5 years. 4.5 million passengers. So, just to reiterate some things, a part of that 2019 was December. So, December numbers were also released, about 12% increase year over year. And that's great. Our load factors are up about 4 4 points in December, up to 80%. So that's great news. So let's take a look at what happened over the last year, over the last 12 months, over the prior year. So what you're looking at is bar chart, number of passengers that were increased or decreased over this time by each airline. So if you notice, we have had 20% increase of passenger numbers for United Airlines alone, which means they added capacity in this market as well. They maintain high load factors. We saw additional capacity in the Chicago market. So Chicago is running about 11 months out of the year now. There was some time over the last 3-4 years that we saw it only in 6 months. So with the exception of November, we're serving that market year-round. American Airlines, for the very first time in 2019, gave us double daily Chicago for the summer season, for the very first time. Dallas was operating on a 4 times a day service, so that's great too. So again, we do see additional passengers in all of our airlines with the exception of 3. But I would like you to focus on one airline, which is Southwest. That's a strength, 40% market share in passenger traffic at Reno. Their numbers were down. However, in the next slide, I'd like to focus on number of seats year over year increased about 10 months out of the year. That is huge. Now let's take a look at passenger numbers. The passenger numbers do not tell a good story for Southwest Airlines. That means they were unable to fill the seats. We asked for seats, they gave us seats. But there are some markets that are struggling. Overall, they're doing good as an airline at Reno, but some of the markets are struggling. I really would like to point that out. We did mention that to the Regional Air Service Corporation Board. Our idea is, and as a matter of fact, it's for everybody, we want to leverage our strength, and that is Southwest Airlines. There's 6 months out of the year that posted significant decrease in passenger traffic. Most of it is attributed to a couple of markets, which is San Diego and San Jose. We've been pushing to get additional capacity on San Diego. For the longest time, they were operating 1 to 2 flights a day. They increased capacity to 3 times a day. Great. Occasionally, they're putting 4 times a day service. However, this market is struggling poorly. San Jose is another good story. Well, not a good story for Southwest, but San Jose is another market that we're seeing significant decline in passenger traffic. When Marilee was talking about a 35% decline in passenger traffic from 2007 to 2014, this was one of the markets that was eliminated by Southwest. Alaska Airlines came back in the market, or came to the market, backfilled with twice-a-day service. They are performing poorly as well. They are not eliminating that route out of their network. However, they're reducing their capacity from twice-a-day service to once a day. Southwest, again, continues to see low load factors on that route, but then again, we'd like to bring that to your attention that our Bay Area markets are not doing so well with airlines. Let's take a look at Houston. Houston says the passenger load factors were 76%, which means 76% of the airplane was filled with passengers. Again, we're looking at January through September timeframe. This flight went daily on April 28th of last year. So we are going to see some improvement because there's significant support from Regional Air Service Corporation and efforts from the RSCVA. As an example, December load factors were satisfactory. We did talk to the airline. They did see some improvement due to marketing support from RSCVA and RASC. RASC spent about $250,000 in the market, and of course, Art's team is doing that as well. The airline posted 83% average load factor during the month of December. They did look at twice-a-day operation during the month of, they wanted to test the market in December, so they were operating a daytime flight and a nighttime flight. The nighttime flight is doing really well for them with 90% load factors. So we're going to continue to work with them how we can not only improve the timings of the schedule, but also bring a bigger aircraft. Right now, they're operating a 76-seat aircraft on the market. JetBlue, JFK, it does say 85% load factor. But when we're looking at airline performance, There are multiple layers of things that airlines look at before they can call a route successful. By the end of the day, they want to make money on that route. Unfortunately, our JFK route, even though they're posting high load factors, it's not generating enough revenue for the airline. During the first 3 months of last year, their performance has been below par. And when I say below par, we're comparing that against all flights out of JFK on JetBlue. And if we just compare it just to the West Coast flights out of JFK, the numbers are even worse. So we really need to pay attention to that. Marilee did mention something about some new moves, what JetBlue has done over the last week or so. Eliminating JetBlue's flights altogether out of Oakland is a big deal for this airline. Oakland was one of their partner airports when they first started. They not only eliminated JFK, they eliminated Long Beach and Boston as well. So Long Beach, before the elimination was announced, they were operating 22 to 23 flights a day. They're down to 15 a day. Let's take a look at the right side of the slide. What does it mean for Reno? So we did talk about JFK flight. Long Beach, thank you to everybody. Most of our partners spend a lot of money in the LA Basin region. Reno Long Beach is the most profitable route for the airline out of Long Beach. Number 2 is Las Vegas. They were operating 5 flights a day. They have reduced it down to 2 flights a day. So this is the time that we need to show our community support with the airline. Show them we're committed to the airline, we're committed to JetBlue, we're committed to JFK, and this is the right time to strike. When they're allocating their aircraft, which have wings and wheels, these assets can fly away, go to other markets. So now I'll bring up Trish for upcoming schedules, marketing update, and talk a little bit about what our strategy is going forward.
Thank you, Hassan. Good morning. For the record, Trish Tucker, one of the other managers of Air Service Development for the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. Appreciate bringing this before you today and talking a little bit about what we've got going, what's in the pipeline, and what we're working on with our airlines for hopefully future service. Delta Airlines, Marilee talked about that. We are very excited that they have decided that they feel that there is enough interest here in Atlanta service to start daily service. On Valentine's Day, appropriately, they will be starting 4 times a week service to Atlanta. And then in May, they go up to 5. And then in June, they'll actually start 7-day-a-week service to Atlanta. I know a lot of people in the community are very excited about that, having another option on Delta other than Salt Lake City, because Atlanta is one of the biggest airports in the world, and the connectivity not only domestically but internationally and to Latin America and overseas, over the pond, is huge. So big win for us, hoping to continue to fill those seats so that we keep that 7-day-a-week service when it comes in. Allegiant Air, starting May 13th, will increase their nonstop flights between Reno and Las Vegas. They currently have 1. They'll be adding another 1. And so they'll have 2. Frontier will add back in Denver on May 15th. Happy to see that. They'll be serving both Las Vegas and Denver at that point. And then Alaska Airlines, another big win for us. You may recall back in July, they took one of their smaller regional jets, 76-seater, and they replaced it with a mainline 737 aircraft and gave us additional lift, additional seats in that market as a test because the load factor was so high for them. And it was successful. And so now, moving forward as of May 21st, 3 of the 4 daily flights from Reno to Seattle will be mainline flights. So 737s or A319 or A320s. So very excited to be able to see that. I know the RSCVA has put money behind Seattle, and we're appreciative of that. As Hassan mentioned, Southwest continues to struggle in some cities, but that MAX 8 grounding, they had a lot of the MAX 8s, so that still is a challenge for them. We keep our eye on that and listen to things that happen in the news. We talk to Southwest a lot about that. they actually are doing extra work because they come out with one schedule in the hopes that MAX 8's, that grounding will be lifted, and then they go back in and they adjust. And they've adjusted so far through June, I believe it is, correct? So we're hoping that that gets fixed as well. That's affecting a lot of the carriers, not just Southwest Airlines, and their desire to expand. So talking about current opportunities, we have been having conversations with Spirit Airlines. We've had representation from RSCVA. Jennifer's gone with us, and Rask, Andy as well, to talk to Spirit. We've been there a couple of times. We continue to be on their radar. We are still hoping maybe to see them have interest in serving us coming the fall. But we have we call it a speed dating conference because we have about 20 minutes with each airline that's happening in 2 weeks in Indianapolis for Hassan and I. And we will be talking to them again and seeing where they sit with that. But Spirit Airlines, as well as Sun Country, we have put together in the past a letter that is signed by 3 parties, the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority with Mayor Lee Mora and the RSCVA and RASC, to show the support from all 3 entities to these 2 airlines. But Sun Country does have an interest in Minneapolis. For a while, you may remember, they were starting to concentrate on Portland a bit, but they've decided that Minneapolis, and we believe smartly so, is really their strength, and that is definitely an interest for us, especially when it comes to some of the events that we have in town. So we will continue those conversations with them. Hassan spent a lot of time on JetBlue. We were talking to them about Boston, and they do see that as a possibility in the future. But our last conversation with them back in October was they're really focusing on ensuring that their current markets that they have, including Reno, JFK, are secure and can be robust with perhaps daily service before they really start focusing too much on adding another destination. And then what was Jet Suite X, now called JSX, we have been in conversations with them, and we are working with them closely on looking at places that they might be able to serve out of Reno Tahoe. Currently, they're most interested on the east side of the airfield, which is the general aviation side of the airfield, working with them. We have talked to them about service. They're interested in Vegas, Burbank, Orange County, and Oakland. Obviously, we like to, our focus is cities that aren't served, if we can get them, and JSX is definitely there. In fact, the Reno Tahoe Airport Board in January just approved incentive package update that will allow us to be able to incentivize carriers such as JSX and Contour, those public charters that offer service and sell seats. So we're excited about being able to offer incentives from the airport side that we weren't on our radar before. And I can tell you that the team spent a lot of time talking to the FAA to allow us to do this. We're kind of the front runners of being able to offer this to this type of air carrier. So we're proud of that. Other opportunities that we might have on the horizon, and we keep the pulse on, we know that we've heard from our community, Washington, D.C. is of interest. We have a small community air service development grant we put out in early fall, still waiting to hear from them to see if we might be able to get some help from the federal government where they could help subsidize a flight to D.C. or Elko, and those could be served for, I'd mentioned Contour, along with JSX for that type of aircraft, the public charter. We'd be looking at using them perhaps to serve those routes if we were to receive the Small Community Airports grant, so we're waiting to hear on that. American Airlines have had interest in Charlotte. They say that they have a lot of their community in Charlotte has second homes up in the Tahoe area. So there's definitely a draw there. We're trying to figure out the timing that might be right with their aircraft, those bigger birds. And you know, we've talked about the altitude density here and the altitude that we have at Reno during especially the summer months when they were most interested in coming is challenging depending on the equipment that they have and such and the timing of the day when it's hot and midday. So we're still in discussions with them. They are very interested in pursuing that in the future. Austin and San Antonio are on our radar. We would love to get Austin back, that we lost, as you recall, with Frontier Airlines. Nashville is of interest, and we talked about the LA Basin. Our partners and RSCVA and RASC have put in a lot of money in Southern California, but there are still airports that are unserved that we think that we could have success with air service in. And then in the Northwest, Boise, Spokane. We lost Boise with Alaska at the beginning of January, and we'd like to see if we might be able to get some of that service back, as well as some service to markets that haven't been seen before. And then international, we still have our conversations with WestJet and Air Canada and Volaris, and looking to try and expand our international footprint out of Reno Tahoe. Seasonally, we hear a lot from the community about they want year-round service to Chicago. As Hassan has mentioned, with United, they are only inactive in that area in November, really. So we've got 11 months out of the 12 with them, but we would like to see increased service there if we can. So turning attention to the marketing opportunities, as you may recall from past presentations, the Airport Authority is limited in what we can do for marketing with FAA guidelines. So we have to stay within those guidelines to be able to operate as an airport. So what we tend to focus on is, we like to say butts and seats. You guys say heads and beds, we say butts and seats. So butts and seats out of the Reno Tahoe Airport. So outbound is where we focus our primary finances on. So we have a Reno marketing campaign that came out recently. We like to do sweepstakes and partner with our airports, knowing that San Jose is a focus city for us. Based on what Hassan just shared with you, we've partnered with Alaska Airlines for a sweepstakes promoting the San Jose area there. And then knowing that Southwest has had some other struggles, we reached out to them to see what markets they may want to promote with the sweepstakes. They have promised us to participate with the sweepstakes, but the city is yet to be determined with them. And then we have a third opportunity that we have had our feelers out to some of our other airlines that serve Reno Tahoe for that. So we have that going on. Hopefully you've seen that. We've got social media out there and a website out there, and really planning to promote that, as well as our We Move You next month. You'll start to see a video out there that we're very excited about, and hopefully we will move you emotionally when you see that out there. We've been working closely with our marketing and PR department at the Airport Authority for that. Trying to work once again with Southwest and getting them attention in this area. We have partnered with them to work at the Chambers Alliance at our booth. And so they will have representation there, more on the business side of things, which makes sense with that particular event. And we always look for other opportunities, and they are a great partner for us, and see the value in coming to things such as the Alliance. I want to reiterate some of the things that Mira Lee said at the beginning of our presentation here. We work so closely with the team at the RSCVA and with our RASC partners on building our air service. And like she said, we could not do it without that support. Because as I mentioned previously, the FAA guidelines really only allow us to focus on outbound, and you need planes full both ways. So destination marketing is really the focus and what we need and rely on from the RSCVA and from our RASC partners. It's so important. And when we talk to the airlines, whether it's existing airline about adding new flights or upgauging like Seattle with Alaska, telling them about the commitment that our community has, not just with money at the table, which sometimes is important, but with the support, with the butts and seats, with the marketing dollars. Those are absolutely key, and the airlines feel that. They know that Reno Tahoe supports them. So that's absolutely important. We spend a lot of time talking on the phone, as previously mentioned, with Art and with Mike and with Jennifer, and trying to strategize on ways to promote the cities. We talked about Atlanta service and the things that have going on. Just yesterday, Art and I were on the phone talking about Seattle and sustaining that and making sure those three large planes, those birds, are filled. So there are a lot of opportunities out there, and we try and take advantage of everyone together. So Marilyn mentioned Jumpstart. This was a huge win for us to get this conference. Jumpstart is coming. The conference itself is coming at the beginning of June, June 1st through 3rd. And we'll have about 400 people for that. Small but mighty, though. 20% of those are airlines. They're airlines that currently serve Reno Tahoe, but they're airlines that don't currently serve Reno Tahoe. And we try and get them out here. We have what's called the Golden Ticket, and many of our partners help us treat our airline partners to a day out here because we feel, if you bring them, they will come, kind of like Field of Dreams. And getting them out here, if they can just see what we have, they'll be sold. All they have to do is see it. And bringing them out is key. So we will get airline representatives who've said, we just can't make it out. It has to be connected to some sort of business trip. Well, this is a business trip for them. So we will have international carriers too, who are out here during that time frame. And we were able to secure Andrew Watterson. He is an executive VP, chief revenue officer for Southwest Airlines, once again going back to trying to get them front and center. And he will be our keynote speaker for Jumpstart. So we're working with Airports Council International North America for this. As I mentioned, the event is June 1st through 3rd. But we have sent invitations, started talking to our airlines about coming out early, not focusing on the airports, but the airlines to come out early on Saturday, Saturday night for a Sunday at the lake, because we figured, just like we all do, Reno Tahoe, what's in a name? A lot. And so Tahoe is key, and to be able to get them up there for the day. We've had conversations with RSCVA and RASC about helping to entertain the air carriers when they come out. And I can tell you in the conversations we've had in the past couple of months with those air carriers, they are very excited to be coming out here and to be able to see that. So we look forward to your support on that with our airlines out here and be able to show what we know is the best place in the world to live. So with that, the team will be happy to take any questions, then turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hassan Azam and Trish Tucker. And Chairman Lucy, we're happy to answer any questions. We did a deep dive on air service, but we've got a lot of other things exciting happening at the airport, so we're happy for any questions this morning.
Marvelous. Are there any questions right now? Ms. Keel.
I know we've spoken about airlift funding in the past, and I just need a refresher on what is the amount of money that's needed annually in order for, additionally, in order for us to actually make a difference with a certain flight or upgrading or whatever. What is that number that's needed?
I think, are you referring from what we give from RSCVA to the airport, or what the airport needs in general?
No, what we give to RASC.
I believe our commitment to RASC is 1.5 million, or what is it currently? Ms. Cunningham, Ms. Toulon?
It's $250,000 a year to RASC, and then we have set aside $1.5 million for airlift.
Okay. And then, so if we wanted to make a difference and push the envelope and really help with, again, a certain flight, what is that incremental dollars that was needed to do that? I mean, it's certainly not, it's not like 50,000, it's not $1 million, there's a number. I just can't remember what it is.
It will vary by airline and what the opportunity is, because some places, it's going to be more expensive to advertise. Trish, if you would like to give us some examples maybe of what we've done or what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, Jen, why don't you cover that?
Without mentioning the names, there's one airline up in Canada that approached us and said, if you give us $1.5 million, we'll serve you 2 to 3 days a week. And, it just doesn't work out. Many of the airlines are not looking for a subsidy per se, but guaranteed marketing dollars. Sure. So the range that we've encountered has been anywhere from probably 50,000 to upwards of 1.5 million, correct?
Yeah, and I would say our biggest opportunities have been at that end of 1.5 million. And so, our biggest, we're up here because many times when there is a signing of an agreement with an airline, that's proprietary, and we're not supposed to be sharing the name of the airline, but I would say those big opportunities has generally been in the vicinity of 1.5 million.
And I would add, as Mr. Chisholm pointed out, our annual commitment to RASC is $250,000 for them as they work as the Air Service Committee to a corporation to service those mitigations. But at the same time, we do set aside that $1.5 million as those one-offs or as needs come along, that we work with the airport to satisfy those as needs for marketing dollars and whatnot. So it just depends, I think, per engagement.
Does it roll over?
It does. We do roll it over annually in our budget.
And what is the current, do you know what the current?
We haven't spent that this year, I don't believe. Do we, Mr. Chisholm?
We have not spent that, and what it is it's, the strategic plan has putting $500,000 a year in until we reached 1.5 million. We reached the 1.5 million, so that was budgeted last year. I believe we spent about 125,000 last year, and this year we have not spent any of the 1.5 million. But there's 1.5 million budgeted for this year.
And then that will stay, so you're saying it will stay at 1.5?
Correct.
But then there's the additional 250,000 that okay. So if an opportunity obviously arrives, we have this pool of money if we think it's good enough to jump at. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Caraselli.
Maybe an example, hypothetically, if you had a legacy airline going to the East Coast and they didn't want 1.5, they wanted 3 million, how would you put it together utilizing our 1.5 million, utilizing what RASC has as their funds available, and utilizing what you can do at the airport and combining cash with in-kind, et cetera, so if everybody really understands what goes into the mix and why you have to have a lot of money available at all times as much as possible to act quickly and be first in line with the money to get the destination and the airline. So if you could do that, it would sure, I think, help everybody.
Certainly, I can give you a couple of examples. One of them is with an incumbent airline, which is present, looking at, again, an East Coast market, slightly north of JFK. First of all, I'd like to say is it is not a one entity, two entity, or three entity thing. It is a community effort. It's a catchment area effort. It's not just through the Valley or Lake Tahoe. It's combined together. Some bleeding into the California markets in the Northern Nevada, just close to Northern Nevada. So with that said, Airport Authority typically recommends airlines to spend the incentive monies that we have set out to be spent in Reno. And the reason is because majority of the entities, CVBs and hotel partners, ski resorts, they're focused on bringing in the passengers. But when airlines look at this market, they look at this market as overall. They want to make sure they have traffic flowing, not only from other areas coming to Reno Tahoe, but from Reno Tahoe to other places too. So kind of completing the circle, airport comes in and fills that half or the third, I'd say. Then comes, since we have majority of the folks that are coming through the airport as visitors, we do want to rely heavily on our partners. Regional Air Service Corporation, as an example, the last opportunity that I mentioned was going to require us to put out $1.5 million in risk mitigation program. Not marketing alone, risk mitigation, minimum revenue guarantee. That means if an airline doesn't, per year, and if an airline doesn't make a certain level of revenue on the flight, Regional Air Service Corporation would backfill and come on and give them the money. So that's one piece. No new market can be successful without proper marketing and ongoing marketing. So there's another component. So in addition to that 1.5 million for that one market, we were going to have to spend another, or I shouldn't say 1.5, but a large amount in marketing. And that is where our third leg comes in to play. And that is RSCVA, of course. And of course, individual partners, individual entities, not only in the Valley, but at Lake Tahoe too. So that's one example. Second example is trying to entice a new airline to come in the market. For example, Spirit. It's an ultra low cost carrier. Their fares are very low, so it's going to entice a lot of visitors to come to Reno. So that airline, if they start a new market, they'll come in a market with at least 2 or 3 flights a day. And that's 180-seat aircraft. So in order for them to come to Reno, we have to put out the money. Again, like Trish mentioned, we put out a letter of intent from RSCVA, RASC, and Reno Airport, suggesting this is the level of money this community is willing to put on the table if you come to Reno.
All right, thank you. Great presentation. You guys know I'm such a fan of everything you do, and I have so much respect for Marilee. Amazing. So I just love you guys. Some of those numbers, Hassan, obviously were very alarming, and you talked about, the community needs to get behind this and, sort of, it sounds like, rally. But, and obviously, you're talking about dollars. We get that. But what are some specifics that we can do to continue to drive that? And at what point, sounded a little bleak. Can you give us is this typical kind of to see this sort of up and down, or kind of what do you think that future is holding?
So Southwest Airlines alone, just looking at just one airline, they're going through their own problems right now. They're going through MAX 8 issues, which means 34 aircraft that they own are parked. They're not using it. So they have to use airplanes from other markets and put it in more profitable routes. Some of the markets that we show, San Diego and San Jose, were on the lower side of generating revenue for them, so they took those planes, put them elsewhere. So it's not typical to see this kind of peaks and valleys, because all of the airlines have been making money for a while. Okay. But when things like this happen, we need to look at it, we need to take a look at it to see how we can put efforts behind to make them successful. And one of them is, of course, grassroots efforts, number one. Number two, look at Art's team, what he's doing with sales missions. Art just mentioned that his team is doing a sales mission as we speak, I believe. So some of those things do really help, but then again, working with Jennifer's team and of course on strategies, we work really very close before we define a market or what we make a recommendation to our RSCVA that, hey, this is where the marketing dollars should go in our opinion. But then again, grassroots effort, individual marketing support from individual entities, and then of course overall entities as well.
And then you have your separate marketing budget over there, correct?
We do. Trish did mention.
And let me touch on that, because one thing we didn't talk about this morning is we have an incentive program. And last month, this month actually, earlier this month, our board took action and changed our incentive policy so that we pushed the agenda, I would say, with the Federal Aviation Administration, because many of you in this room want JSX, formerly Jet Suite X, to return. And so we actually changed our incentive policy, which is waives landing fees and rental rates and also provides marketing money. We changed that so that we could accommodate and provide an incentive to JSX, because that's very much wanted back in this community. So I will say we don't talk about that because now an airport's incentive policy is pretty much a given, and the light of an airline when we walk in the door, but it's a very much of a tiered approach. Trish Tucker just presented to our board, so it's a very complex schematic now of how many times a week you serve. Is it one of our targeted destinations? But yes, we do have our own program as well.
Okay. All right, great job. Thanks so much.
Mr. Caraselli.
I'd like to make a comment. The 1.5 million that we currently have renews every year to 1.5 million. I think it's important that we maintain that, because you're servicing two areas. You're servicing the inquiries that are coming in for new air service, and you may need help for sustainability of an existing flight like the JFK flight by JetBlue. They're struggling a little bit. That's where we come in with our backup 1.5 million to have a media rush of some kind or money spent accordingly to help the occupancy here in Reno, so, and possibly out of New York type thing. But what I'm getting at is it's very important to have that 1.5 million ongoing, to have it in place at the beginning of each fiscal year. And then I think, because you never know who's going to come and inquire about coming to Reno, and all of a sudden, oh my God, we don't have any money to sit down and discuss with you the possibility of getting a new air service. We don't have any mitigation funds. So then you can go home and lock the door. So that's why it's important to maintain that 1.5 million.
Thank you, Mr. Caraselli. You know, and one of the challenges that I'd like to point out too, that I believe that the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority has always had is that Reno as a destination is an endpoint destination. We are not a through hub, very much like Las Vegas, Dallas, or any of those others where the carriers will see those hubs and add flights and not charge them the mitigation fees, because the way the airlines see it is that those flights will have to come on either, if they're a one-day service, come and park that asset at our airfield until they can leave the next day with a new flight. So really, it really depends on the ability for this organization to help market our region and the tourism aspect of our region to make sure that people are continuing to utilize the come here, but also our residents, our 500,000 individuals that are using flight service to get out as well. And so it makes it very much different, especially for staff when they're trying to entice new air carriers, that look, your asset may have to come and sit overnight and not be utilized where it would be utilized differently if it was going through a different airport. And so that is a challenge. So that's why I think it's important for the cooperation between Reno RSCVA and the RTAA and RASC, for that matter, to continue to elevate any marketing efforts to continue to push air service. So I think as we continue to talk about different ways that we can, I think air service is tremendously paramount to our business as it pertains to getting the convention sales and whatnot. We hear time and time again, correct, Mr. Larragueta, that one of our challenges we have with our convention space is getting individuals here, that it's a challenge to get individuals here, and that air service has always been a challenge, and lift is a challenge. And that's because, it's not because we don't have an amazing airport, it's because the providers and the carriers are providing this challenge in regards to fees. For example, my in-laws were visiting from Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. It's cheaper for them to go to Las Vegas because the fees are much less there than they are here because of what that is imposed by the carriers. So once again, it goes back to marketing and making sure people have enough reason and draw to come to the region and providing those incentives. So I think it's paramount that this organization continue its relationship, and if anything we can do to robust those types of relationships. Any other questions by any of the board? Ms. Mora, Ms. Tucker, Mr. Son, we appreciate you and all the time you've given us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. All right, so I'm going to try to move this through here. We're going to if we can get through this in the next 10, 15 minutes, we will move quickly. What I'm going to do is take a couple things out of order really quick. I'm going to open items F2 and F3. These are kind of basic housekeeping items. Both are discussions for upgrades to the electrical service upgrade at the Reno Sparks Convention Center for F2, and then the other is a marquee sign at the Convention Center retrofit. So I'm going to open items F2 and F3. I'll read those into the record. F2 is a review and discussion and possible approval for the award of the bid of the RFP 2020-03 PWP A 2020-112 to Nelson Electric Company, Inc. for Reno Sparks Convention Center electric service upgrade in the amount not to exceed $186,890 for consideration. And then F3 is discussion and possible approval to issue a contract with Custom Sign and Crane LLC to retrofit existing message marquee sign at the Reno Sparks Convention Center for an amount not to exceed $94,647. Is there any need for discussion or presentation by any of the board members on any of this item? Seeing none, looking for a motion to approve F2 and F3. I have a motion by Mr. Sturbins, second by Ms. Silver. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Let the record show that Mayor had stepped out for a moment. We'll go back to F1 at this time. This is an authorization to pursue a lease the East Kitchen at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. I'm going to have our attorney, Mr. Kennedy, briefly talk about this lease. And then I will add some comments on it right after. Mr. Kennedy.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. So currently, the East Kitchen in the Reno Sparks Convention Center is unused, as I understand it. Neither ASM or RSCVA doesn't use that kitchen. The RSCVA has been approached by ASM. They've identified it as an opportunity to generate some revenue, and they're seeking permission to look to lease that space to a third party. Sort of by way of process, in the statute, there's a summary process for leasing space under 25,000 square feet. So that's how we'd propose to proceed if the board so desires. At this point, we don't have a tenant identified. It's just the concept. Does the board want to allow ASM and a broker to put the kitchen space on the market to identify a tenant? If that tenant's identified, we'd negotiate a lease, and that would come back to the board at a future date for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And so my comments to this is that it's twofold. There is some opportunity, obviously, for ASM to recover some costs and generate revenue if we were to be able to find a tenant. However, my issues that reside with this is that in the case that we do have, and frequently in recent years, when we've had conventions at the convention center, we have had high-level dignitaries and individuals that come through and have had to close down the entire center for security, i.e. the president with Secret Service that has had to close that down a number of times. We would have to kick any tenant that may be in there out for those periods of time, which might be a challenge for any leasee of that. So those are discussions that this board may want to have in that as it pertains to the lease. Is it worth the $5,000 to $7,000 monthly that we may offset for those types of challenges? So with that, I'll open it to the board. Ms. Silver.
I have a question. Assuming a tenant were located there, would it be open to the public when there are no conventions or any kind of event going on at the convention center?
The lease imagined it would not be open to the public. It'd only be for kitchen use.
Okay.
For commercial use.
So you're looking for someone who just wants kitchen space?
That is correct.
It would be, Ms. Silver, and just for some edification, it might be somebody like Washoe County where we cook senior meals, or our HSA department that would come in and rent that, cook meals, and then that would be dispersed throughout the community, or to a food truck vendor or something of that nature. Catering company. So it would just be the employees of that of that tenant that would be in that kitchen space.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Sturbins. Oh, Mr. Lawson, I'm sorry. I saw.
So just so you know, that we have some of these kitchens going in Sparks. They're actually catering out to the Teslas and the Switches, and so they're making meals for thousands and thousands of people, and there's a great need for this. So I don't think there'll be any doubt that this can get leased in a short period of time because of the lack of industrial style kitchens at this point.
Okay, Mr. Sturbins.
So if I recall correctly, I think that space ran into the possible flex space in the expansion of the possible expansion of the convention center. So I guess my question would be, I would assume there would be some kind of provision in the lease for that, and or would it affect a possible expansion?
It depends on where the expansion would go. It is in the old part of the Centennial Coliseum part of the convention center, if you remember, and it's on the east side up against the admin offices, so it's on the very edge of the building. When we were looking at the last expansion, it was not envisioned that this area would change. If we did do an expansion and the need for a kitchen came about, we would be able to cancel the lease. We would not extend a 30-year, it'd be a year-to-year lease is what we would be looking at.
Would we, Mr. Chisel, would we also be listing the equipment that's in there currently?
That is correct. There is some stoves, some refrigeration units, and
some ovens.
sinks, and yes, and ovens.
Okay. Mr. Kornstein.
Oh, sorry. You know, we had our pre-call and we discussed this. I might be in the minority, but I think for such a modest amount of money, $5,000, $7,000 a month, with the lack of flexibility that we're going to have and the liability, no matter what these contracts say, no matter what insurance people provide, and the traffic flow that's going to occur here, because the idea, I think, is that it's going to be you cook it and then you deliver, which is becoming popular. I'm really not in favor of pursuing this. I think it really doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about $60,000 pre-tax with it per year with what we're going to take on. It's a rounding error. It doesn't make any sense in my mind to pursue. We might, I mean, if we could get $20,000 a month, it might make sense to think about it. But at this meager, rental with the problems that we have, that people have when they rent out space, tenants wind up having more rights than the owners do in the world we live in. I just think it's a mistake.
Thank you, Mr. Cornstein. And I have a tendency to agree with you. Not only is it a nominal fee that will be collected for just the rental space, but then you have to talk about the actual equipment that we have currently in there, be it that it is old and probably needs replacement, but it still has not been in use for quite some time. We start giving that to a tenant, they start breaking it. We have the responsibility to replace that equipment if it needs to be replaced. There's a lot of additional costs. There's a lot of additional costs to that. That's all right, buddy. There's a lot of additional costs to that could be attributed to some challenges. So in my opinion, this is not something that we should probably pursue. It was me. All right, so with that, I think we've had some discussion. I'm looking for a motion at this time. Mr. Cornstein, would you like to make a motion? Sure. All right. We have a motion not to pursue a lease at this time or open a lease at this time. I have a second from the mayor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. So we are on to our last item our second to last item of the day. We are on to G1. This is our special event funding. Who is with us this morning for oh, come on up. Ms. Cunningham, do you want to take us into this item, please?
Yes, I'd like to introduce Tasha Courtney, who runs the special events program for us, and she took the position after Nina retired last year, but has been with our organization for many years. Thank you.
Mr. Lucy.
Yes, Mr. Dillon.
Don't forget item H1 also.
Yep, I got it for you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm Tasha Courtney. I'm the Events and Digital Marketing Manager for the RSCVA. Before I get started, I did want to point out we do have a couple of our events represented in today's audience. We have Tony Locatetta with Air Races here, and then Chris Hoff back here with Barracuda Championship.
Interrupt quickly. I've asked her to be expeditious with this presentation,
Yep.
So feel free to ask questions if we pass over something.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rather than going into a big overview of our special event partnership funding program, that is included and outlined in your report if you do want to look further into it, or please let us know if you have any questions. So what I do want to point out is that the board approved a $500,000 budget for our 2020 calendar year. We often will hold back an amount for contingency funds as well, and so we had $7,500 rolled over from the 2019 contingency fund, which brought our total to $507,500 to disperse, and the total ask from our applicants was $785,700. You all received the funding recommendations in your packet, so hopefully you had a chance to look through it. What I would like to point out, because we understand that the recommended funding varies significantly from different events based on the categories they're in, based on their longevity, and I just wanted to mention, the largest dollar amount we've recommended with regards to the criteria that's outlined in your packets as to how we determine how this funding is recommended. The National Championship Air Races have been the largest recipient in recent years due to their implementation of their NBC Sports program. The funding recommendation from the panel this year for the air races is to put $130,000 toward the national broadcast program and their additional marketing efforts. What I do want to say about them when they reached out this year through their application, through conversations, their staff saw a need to expand their reach to younger demographics. And that's a big part, and we see that a lot, especially with our longtime events. We appreciate that they wanted to do that, and they highlighted that during their funding request. Their goal this year, in order to achieve it, their 2020 initiative is to stream 15 10-minute vignettes on YouTube, which would lead up to an hour airing on NBC Sports, which is what they previously done, but they're just cutting that back and adding in that YouTube element. We believe and support this because it reaches a younger demographic, as approximately 88% of millennials use streaming services. I can attest to that. It will also include the ability for more interaction with one-click options, linking, being able to get more information quicker, which millennials love too. So I did want to speak to that. And I will say too, Reno Tahoe's brand has always been very prominent with their airings, and will continue to be, I know. And that includes our logo placement, a presented by Reno Tahoe slide always, ads, footage of our destination, and we strongly support their push in the digital marketing efforts. We're doing the same, obviously, with what we're doing here. And so I did want to just mention that, as they are the largest funded event here. So I'd like to open that up for questions.
Ms. Keel.
What percentage of the 130,000, or how much of the 130,000 will be allocated to this digital campaign?
It would be 120 of that will go towards the YouTube and NBC, and then 10,000 will go to their additional marketing efforts.
Sorry, did you say 120 or 20?
120.
So the full?
We're 130,000 total. 120 of that will go towards the NBC.
So it's not, so the money isn't going towards NBC, like for a TV buy?
It will go towards their program as a whole, which includes the production and the airings for both the YouTube streaming as well as the NBC Sports.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Kornstein.
Oh, sorry. Again, we spoke about this the other day. You know, I'm fairly new to the community, new to this board. It seems like an awful high percentage of this budget of $500,000 to spend 25% on one event that is having, and don't take this personally, but is having, you know, challenges since the crash that occurred, as best as I understand it. So I think a little bit more analysis of what we really think this benefit is going to be versus alternative uses. I'm not suggesting we don't spend money here, but to spend 25%, almost 25% of the budget, just seems outsized for one event that might not have quite the draw that other events might have, and our need to broaden the appeal of this area to a different audience. So.
No, that's a great point. And if I can just really quick to that, the criteria I didn't outlay, you know, the discussions we have with our panel are based on so many different things. Is it room nights they're bringing in, the uniqueness, what they're bringing to the area? And also I think having that extent of their reach and being able to have that nationwide reach with them. We also really love to support these longtime events who are looking at new initiatives to find that new demographic. And I think we like to applaud that as well. We don't want to consistently just give money to say you're doing the same thing. If you're acknowledging that there's something new to be done, we want to be behind that and support that.
Great. Ms. Keel.
Yeah, I guess just to echo Don's point, I think I could be in support of, you know, a digital campaign because it is trying to go after that younger demo and not necessarily just a broad TV campaign. We know the age demographic that typically participates and watches the air races, and it's not necessarily that younger demographic that we're trying to get here, but maybe there could be some opportunity with the younger demographic on a digital platform. I didn't realize, I guess I'm still a little confused, but I didn't realize 100% of that 120 was going towards the digital campaign. I thought it was kind of a mixture of, but I guess I support Don, but maybe there's some creative ways that we could support it.
Okay. Mr. Kursoli.
I think you got to consider what they've done in the past, the number of people they bring and put in the hotels. And I think the spend that would come from all these people being here for basically 3, 4, or 5, whatever days, So I think if you take all that into consideration, and as you're saying it's 1/4 of the budget, I think you could take the rest of the budget, multiply it multiple times, and you wouldn't get near the impact, economic impact for this area that this one event gets. So in my opinion, I think I would be for anything that makes them stronger, and if they're just trying to expand the demographic, it hopefully will make them stronger. They have been struggling, but this community would lose a lot of revenue and a lot of economic impact if we lose that. And I think the 130 is just our way of showing we're in support, and we're supporting the tourism, the best parts of tourism, to bring more people to this venue. So that's why I would be in favor of it.
And, you know, I have a quick comment as well. And, you know, in conjunction with what Mr. Caraselli is saying, is that this is a legacy event. And when you really look at the numbers that we're talking about, the $130,000, as it pertains, it is a large chunk of our special events funding. But as it pertains to what we spend annually on marketing to the region and those kind, it's a very small number in comparison. And so when you look at it in that relative sense, remember, Reno Air Races has been so iconic that it's caught the eyes of Disney. It's caught the eye of a number of different things that we've done within this area. So it does have a heritage pool to it that brings a different aspect that you may not see other events do within the area. So there are some, I see where you're coming from, Mr. Kornstein, in regards to maybe elevating what we do with the program and how we maybe curtail how we would like that money spent in years going forward. But to take away from the event based upon this, I mean, the 130 for us is really a nominal number, but to them it's tremendously beneficial in regards to the success of their event. So I'd like to see those events continue to do it. So I in opinion, is to support something of that nature. Mr. Caraselli.
Well, probably the biggest cost that is increasing dramatically at a high percentage every year is the insurance part. And they really have no control over that. It's the market makes the market, and that really puts them behind the 8 ball to start with. Most every year they come up with a 10, 15, 20% increase in insurance.
Great. Yeah.
So, you know, there's nothing they
Good
can
point.
do about that, nothing anybody can do about that.
Good point. All right, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, when was the last time we had an increase in funding for special events?
You know, I know.
Do we go up every year?
We don't.
Do we have a formula?
This year was the same as last year's budget. I don't know off the top of my head.
What I would like to see, and I don't know who kind of wants to put this together, or maybe it's on Jennifer's side. But I think because since we have some new board members, and I think some of us on this body might not be clear on sort of the vision of where we're going with our special events. Is there a formula that we continue to keep funding? There's new events that are coming into the market that I think we need to start paying attention to that could be very relevant to the region. You know, obviously that, you know, some of these car enthusiasts are talking about, you know, like Tesla parades and Burning Man, what do they call it? Art car parades, and just, I'm just saying, there's different opportunities out there, and I think a lot of the events community is also unclear why the RSCVA funds something or why they don't, why they do, right? I think we need to have a vision and a much more clear direction what we're saying to our new special events community and the special events that have been there and contributed and make huge impacts. I think we need to look at it completely different, and that's just my thought of going into, you know, what the next level is of special events and how important that is to this body and to the RSCVA, and maybe also, and I don't know what market we sort of compare, you know, RCVB to. I mean, we kind of do with Boise, but they don't have gaming, so there's like a lot of different dynamic. But if you took that, I'd just be curious to kind of know what they're spending on you know, special events. But we are kind of like special events of, you know, always, people are always telling me like the Capitol, right? Whether it's the balloon races or the air races or Barracuda, you know, we sort of have something for everyone. But I kind of would like to have a more clear direction on where we're going with that and how much we do want to invest and what that message is when we're looking at that criteria to also bring in new events, attract new events, and also continue to keep the events that we have. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what that looks like, but maybe.
I have a quick comment, and I think the mayor hits on something. We do have a marketing subcommittee that we don't do a whole lot with marketing wise. I think this might be a good subset for the marketing committee to get together and have that discussion led by the chair of the marketing committee with members of this board, a subcommittee of this board, and invite these outside events, these new emerging events, these legacy events to come and discuss about what that, how that calculation is done, how we go and rebrand the whole process from the start in. Because I think to the mayor's point, the process we've had is not necessarily archaic, but it's just maybe challenged. And when we came on the board, we had some challenges with the open meeting law and board participation in that. But what we can do is at least have a subcommittee marketing meeting that discusses special events, invite these and say, hey, how do we go and rebrand? How do we readdress this from a kind of a holistic standpoint that everybody gets a slice of the pie, and is the funding amount enough, and have that come back to the whole board for further discussion and have a more robust discussion at that time. Is that something that maybe be amenable to the entire board? Mr. Caraselli.
Just a comment, I agree with the mayor 1,000%.
All right. Ms. Cunningham.
If I could just comment quickly, you two are echoing the comments that our panel kind of came up with at the end of the funding exercise this time. And I do believe that we all believe, the time is right now to totally reevaluate it. And one thought I had was looking at other destinations, but I think going to Las Vegas events and talking to them about how they are handling special events for their community might be a really good starting point as well. So
Great idea.
we're on the same page, and I love the idea of, I was thinking maybe a steering committee, but we have a marketing committee. It's perfect. I think that would be great.
Whatever you think that looks like. I just think right, because I think we have changed so much, and there are new players in the market that come to me all the time. I'm sure, Ed probably gets it at the City of Sparks of saying, hey, we want to bring this, and I know, and you hear it, new and exciting things that are happening, and so I think we have to have a direction on those percentages, to Mr. Kornstein's points. I love how you can tell he definitely has a background in finance. So, but the percentages, the data of what we're investing.
Mr. Kornstein.
Right. Well, when you think about the world, things are becoming much more analytical, whether it's baseball or politics. Everybody's relying on data. And what I said to Jennifer was, if we're spending money, we have to develop the metrics to figure out what benefit we're getting. And we know the world is changing. And I'm not denigrating any event, but if all we're going to do is keep funding what we do as a legacy here, we're not going to change the image of Reno. We have to figure out where these new opportunities are to help change and grow the vision of what this is. And that's going to feed the airport lift and all the other stuff we were hearing about before. And it's what we do in the casino business. So we have our loyal customers and people that play, but you know what? They're getting older. Some of them are actually dying, right? So we have to refill the pipeline, and the newer people we're trying to fill the pipeline with, which we use a lot of analytics with, are very different from the people that are retiring or leaving this earth. And that's what I think we need to think about when we do this, and maybe we need to allocate more money to this, because this is a bit of our future lifeblood, if you think about it.
Well, and I agree with you, Mr. Kornstein, 100%. We go back and we talk about legacy events and some of their aging out attendees, and that we give a significant amount of our budget for the special events to these legacy events that we know have secured attendance. But there are a lot of these brand new events, these emerging events that have probably the same kind of attraction, just maybe not the marketing support or the backing support that could be make them successful. And whether you're an emerging event or a legacy event, you have the same challenges. You're trying to attract attendees. You're trying to bring them to an area. You're trying to sell tickets. You're trying to get sponsorships. It doesn't matter whether you're emerging or legacy. It just matters about the type of support you're getting, and it goes right back to what you've just said. It's all about the analytics and the data and how that's driven and how that's incorporated into the funding mechanism so that they can, grow their business. So, I mean, we can talk about this. What I'd like to do is bring this back for a future board item because we are. Mr. Lawson, I'll let you jump in.
So I will invite any of you guys that want, come to Sparks next week when we do our funding, and you see how we do it. And we look at it as emerging events. We look at it as a cost per attendee. How much does it cost? What are we getting for our buck? And that seems to work. We only have we don't even have 200,000. We have $196,000 to spend, and we allocate to that. But I want to tell you, a great success story is Pumpkin Palooza. It sounds corny, and it is corny as heck, but it had 1,000 people attend 4 years ago. Last year was over 15,000. A one-day event in downtown Sparks. 15,000 people, and we give them, I think, $8,000, $10,000 at the most. So that's what we're getting our bang for our buck for, is you're looking for those emerging events that are growing at exponential type levels. So I think that's exactly what we need to look at. And I've said for years we need to increase this budget. This is our future, because I mean, and it's hard to say this, but it's true. I mean, Hot August Nights, they're dying off. The airplane, they're dying off. I mean, we have several events. Harley riders, we're dying off. I mean, all these events that these people are just aging out of it, and the younger people are not. I think the mayor's right in some of the gaming type stuff, the gamer stuff where they're playing games. I think that's going to be a huge market in the future. But how do we get that started and make it a citywide? But I think we've come to a somewhat of a little bit of a formula in Sparks on how we fund. So you're welcome to attend.
So we're stylized today to talk about in support of the 2020 year calendar special event funding, the allocations for this year. So what I'd like to do is get back to that. But as we continue that, what I'd like to do is bring this back for a future board item. But before we do that, have the marketing committee convene and have that discussion with special event funding, and we can make that as a future item in the next few months prior to the 2021 year of funding, and before we budget that, going into budget process, Mr. Chisel. So those are things I'd like to look at. So we do have a short window, because we do have to have those budgets prepared by March. So I'd like to get that on that ASAP, and Madam Mayor, I'll have you convene that meeting and get that going. So where we are, if there are no changes today, I would like to take a motion at this time to support what we have been submitted to us by the committee for the special eventing, if there are no changes.
Chairman Lucy,
Ms. Keel.
Specifically to the list, to your comment, getting back to the list, I do have one question in regards to Barracuda, which is the second highest amount on the list. The tournament is now in California, I believe.
Right.
Which, I don't know if that's an issue for anyone on this board, being in California. In addition, is it on over 4th of July weekend? Okay, which is also obviously going to be a very popular time for the hotels, and I don't think any of us are going to have a problem filling our hotel over 4th of July weekend with it falling on a Saturday. So is there any concern about the amount, keeping the amount the same, knowing that it is in California, not in Nevada, and not over a time that we actually need help?
I'm going to comment to that. In my opinion, with Barracuda, and obviously it's been a county event for many years, and we are sad to see it leave Washoe County and go to, but with that being said, the event is just being held in Truckee, the city of Truckee, and the actual room nights, and where a lot of this funding comes, so obviously it's room tax, correct? And so our funding comes from room tax. The room nights are going to be here. Whether you can fill the hotels or not on a 4th of July weekend, no discrepancy. There's no contingency there. But the problem, what I'm saying is I think that those individuals still are coming, and we're marketing the region, Reno, Tahoe as an area. And even though Truckee is across the border, I feel that those individuals will be staying in our community by flying into, utilizing our airport to get in and out of the community. It does still have a national presence on the Golf Channel and what it does. They do when they show Reno, Tahoe, and they use a lot of our. So, in my opinion, once again, it's still one of those events that supports the marketing drive and the commitment of and I kind of the vision of this board to do that. Yes, it's over the border, but I don't see that as if it was in Sacramento, I would see that as a different challenge. It is not in Sacramento. It's just on the other side of the state line, realistically, for me. So it's just my opinion. So I'm still wholeheartedly ready to support that and their initiatives.
Yeah, maybe it ought to be as part of this other thing that we're going to pursue. It should just be looked at in the context of that. We should probably just stay with what we have now.
Right. Agreed. So going on an ongoing board, on a going forward board, I think we need to have those more discussions on the analytics. I agree with you 100%. Any other comment? Ms. Silver?
Just a comment and not a criticism. The Chamber started with Bizball last year, which brought thousands of people into downtown Reno. Unfortunately, I was never even aware there was an opportunity to bid for this type of money. So I think we could do a lot more in raising awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to see these emerging events and where the money's going. They're all fascinating. But I would have loved to have an opportunity to get a couple $1,000 to assist us with our Bizball, which will happen again this July on the river.
Okay. Any further comments by any of the board members? All right. At this time, looking for a motion. I have a motion from the mayor. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Wood. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we are on to our final HR. Mrs. Neal, this is, if you want to take us into this, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Sherry Neal for the record, HR Director for the RSCVA. Molly Razak, our employment attorney, and I have worked on reviewing our policies for currency and compliance with legislation. We have included in your packet a staff report and a number of policies that we are recommending revision on. The first three really are internal processes, and we're cleaning up language. The last four are really as a result of legislative change in this last session. Those would be reporting work or related injuries. That's actually a new clinic that we're doing. Drug-free workplace is a legislative change. Overtime is language in compliance with legislation, and paid leave is a legislative change. So we're just trying to stay on top of things. Any questions?
Pretty much housekeeping. Any questions by any of the board members on the policy changes? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Motion from the mayor, second from Mrs. Keel. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We're going to move through here, folks, really quick. We are on to our final board member comments. Are there any comments other than the direction that we've given to staff so far? All right. See no board comments. I do not have any public comments signed in. All right. With that being said, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. I know. He ran away with his headphones on. Probably safe.